Hi, I'm going to do a video now on some basic things on the program that you need to know. Um, Not unduly interesting, but just necessary. Now I've opened up a picture here. It's of some lemon blossom, I believe, that I took a picture of in our garden a while ago. Lemon tree has since died a death, but I still have the photograph. Um, so we have a picture of whatever, and on the right hand side here on this panel you can see that it's got the details of the picture. Now at the moment, if I look at the layers, that's the only thing that shows up. That's the only thing that I'm looking at. There's nothing underneath it, it's just a photograph. Now, if for example I go to the paint tool and I get a brush and I do this, da, 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 it's still in that layer. It hasn't added another layer, there is still only the one layer. Now I'm just going to edit and undo my paintbrush. Magic this, isn't it? If I want to add another layer, I go down here and it says create a new layer and add it. Okay, and this one opens up a box saying create a new layer, it gives me the size, etc. Foreground colour, now that would be black, that's what my foreground colour is. My background colour is white, or it would do it in white, or I can have it set as transparency, and that's what I would choose to do. Alright, so I now have, under my layers, I have this transparent layer and the photograph layer, and at the moment I'm working on the transparent layer. So if, for example, I then get my brush and I do my painting, da, 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 and I make a right mess of things, I can still look at my original layer and find that it's unaltered. Now at the moment you can still see the paint on here. This is because this layer is transparent. If I switch this layer off so that you can't see it, lo and behold, all you get to see is the layer that I originally had, the photograph. And then if I put it back on, you can then see the paint strokes. The paint strokes are in this layer. You look upon layers as pieces of tissue paper or tracing paper, one piece of paper on top of another, because you see through them. If you have a transparent layer, you see through it. Just having a slurp of my tea here. So that's the way that the layers work. Down here, there's other things that you need to be aware of. This one is creating a new layer group and add it to the image. Just lots of layers rather than just one. Raise this layer 1 in the layer stack. So you can raise it in the layer stack so that one goes to the top and then that one's underneath, and that will alter your view because that one isn't transparent and that one is. Or you can make it go down a layer, put it back where it was before. Ta-da! Or indeed you can duplicate the whole layer, and this one here is anchor the floating layer, so if you have layers on top they're all anchored as it were, they're not going to move anywhere. And this one is delete the layer, so I'm going to select that layer and I'm going to say I want that deleted, and then I'm left with only the one layer. Now on this window here I have another button which is my palettes button. As you can see, there are an awful lot of palettes to choose from. You can choose any palette you like to draw things with, use for your paintbrushes, do whatever you wish. I've got the default palette selected here. Okay, you can rename it if you so wish. But yes, all sorts of different palettes, everything from golds and reds and borders and lights and all sorts of weird and wonderful things. And what you do when you have your paintbrush, for example, I would go to my paintbrush selection and scroll down here and maybe choose just a circular one. And at the moment it's in random colour, but I could do, where is it? Dynamics off, and I could choose a colour from my palette, like say blue, and then I've got a blue paintbrush. If I want to close this down, there's a little arrow there, click on that and it says close the tab. You can add tabs, you can close them, you can detach them. If you detach the tab, it simply means that your menu becomes like this, something that you can move around and you can put somewhere else. Okay, that's all it is. And I'm going to close that tab down for the time being. This one here is the undo history, and basically it does like your undo function. It goes back so many steps, and you can actually set in the preferences how many steps it remembers and things like this. And obviously it's limited by the amount of memory you have. The difference with this is instead of going undo by going edit, undo, you can choose to go back to a step in your picture that you previously wanted. So item visibility or raise the layer. And if I go back to that, it's put it back to that stage. And if I go to the layers, it's put it back to what it was when that particular moment happened. Okay, so that's what that one does. This one here is the tool options. So depending on what tool you have selected over here, you have your options here. It will automatically come up for you if you double click on something. So for example, if I double click on the letter A for text, it gives me all the text tool options. Handy to know that it's there in case you don't double click and you actually want an option that isn't listed. But if you double click on these, then the way we have it set up, the way we set up this bar in the first place, means that will show over there and you'll get your tool options. What else? Closing things down. At the top here, you'll see I've got two things which are open at the moment. I have a plain transparent base, which is this one, and I have my photograph, the one we've been looking at, and I can use the cross on there to close it down, and it will say, do you really want to do this? Discard your changes? Yep. Okay, nothing important there. Now that disappears because I've only got one thing open, and if I want to close this down, I go to Edit and Clear. And it will, in fact, if this is selected properly, Edit, Clear. Nope, it's not doing it. Probably because I've not got the layer. No, I've got the layer selected. Right, this layer, Edit and Clear. No, it's not doing it. Why is it not doing it? Because my computer was waiting a while. Okay, my computer's running out of memory power. I was thinking this is a bit worrying, but obviously it is. Right, it's doing it now. And if I go to this layer, I can choose to delete that layer in the bin on the bottom if I so wish. Other ways of doing things, where has it gone? Another one that I wanted to show was the file and revert. If you've done a lot of the different things to your picture, sometimes you can just take it back to the beginning with a revert. So you've been messing around for half an hour, you've done heaven knows what, so that you don't want to save the changes. I just want to go back to where I started, and you go to revert and it will revert everything back to normal for you. Anything else on here you really need to know? Rectangular selection, oval selection, lasso selection. The magic wand selects a little bit like the intelligent scissors, in that it selects by colour, but it's not as intelligent as that, and it's a bit more difficult to use properly, and you need a bit of practice to use that one, so that was not so clever. Select by colour tool I will go into another time. That's your scissors, and again intelligent edge fitting scissors. Actually, this is the foreground select tool, not intelligent scissors, but it does pretty much similar things. So there are a lot of tools in there to be used, and we'll gradually work our way through some of the ones that I think are going to be of interest to crafters, bearing in mind that this is what these tutorials are for. They are not for people who want to heavily edit photographs for photographic purposes. So, okay, I hope you enjoyed that brief tutorial. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye.